Good evening, everybody. My name is Kiran Komatla. I am Group Chief Technology Officer at Restaurant Brand Asia. We are into hospitality. We have Burger King as a brand in India, and we also have Burger King and Popeyes in Indonesia market. I've been working in retail from last more than 2 decades. And so today topic is on data-driven, how organizations are preparing for their data-driven decision making. We are seeing data from last 3-4 decades, and the way the data is present then and now is the same. But only thing is how the data is being consumed has changed. Take a couple of decades back, especially I'm from retail, so I just wanted to quote on retail examples. People used to collect name of that person, not more than anything. Later, email ID came. Later, mobile number came. Later, address came. So this is more of a identification of a customer or a consumer. Now this has been going more deeper and deeper, and from last decade, when e-commerce came into picture, complete transaction level data, how the customer is behaving on their platforms or on their outlets, or how they are interacting with the brands in social media. So every touch point, every data points are been so useful, and with that, companies have been driving the business. There are organizations which are been 50 years, 60 years old, and still they are the same. And there are organizations which have just started 2 years back, 3 years back, and they become a big unicommerce which are disrupting the industry. Just to take an example of few startups which started at the time of COVID period, take Exito or a Blinkit. They have nothing more than data and how they take actions on data and how they use the data. So that's the power of data. And today, without data, these organizations cannot even take any single decision. So decision in the organization is completely data driven. So let's just talk about a little brief about data. See, today, as I quoted, data is everywhere. Every industry has data. Every organization is having data. But the question is how the organizations are leveraging this data, how they are using this data. It is estimated that by end of 2025, there will be somewhere around per day transactional data which is collected will be around 487 exabyte data, where if I compare that data with 2009, the entire world digital data storage is 460 exabytes. So from last 2009 to today, the entire world data which used to be stored in the digital storage, today we are producing that much of data on a daily basis. So that is an exponential growth where people are capturing data. In some industries, especially in pharmaceutical, in aerodynamics, even in aerodynamics, the jet engine rotation is also being captured as a data, and based on that, decisions are made. So decision making, data is a oil. So we call now data is a new oil in terms of how you mine your businesses. If you take it at enterprise levels today, 7 out of 10 large enterprises which are ruling the world are data-driven organizations. Take from Apple to Google, Microsoft to Netflix, Uber. So all these organizations only take decisions based on the data which they collect and how they are leveraging this data. Having said, I just wanted to take to our extreme panelists. Everyone is from different industry. Let's hear out from them how they are leveraging this data and how they are shaping up their enterprise as a data-driven organization. So I'll first start with Dr. Hari. Yeah.
Sure.
So since I was just having a chat with you before, you have done doctorate in how you use the data and how you do the analytics and all. So in your point of view, how the organizations are shaping up and how the organizations are getting ready for data-driven approach. Can you just give your insights from your side?
Yeah, sure. Hopefully I'm audible.
Yeah.
When we say data-driven approach, like I was telling you earlier, right? Data here means data, analytics, and AI. That's really the background that organizations really look at, right? From my perspective, the way I see this is really three big things that organizations are focused on. One, what we call the data modernization piece. How are you really getting yourself ready from a data organization standpoint? The second piece is what we call AI and analytics activation. So if you really have the data in place, what are you really trying to do with that data? Right? And finally, how are you moving this into an intelligence space, which is what we call enterprise intelligence, right? So that you can make the right kind of decisions with the data that's within the organization, probably outside of the organization and stuff like that. So those are the three pillars that we typically focus on from an organization standpoint. Going back to your earlier point about applications of how organizations are really trying to use this, right? In a very simple form, this can really be broken up into three components, what I call the C, R, and O. C is really customer. So what kind of use cases can you really drive through in the customer space? Now, this could be areas around customer retention, customer acquisition, digital analytics, social media analytics, and stuff like that, right? When you go to operations, anything that you look at from an efficiency standpoint, if you're a bank, collections is a good example, right? If you're looking at supply chain, how do you optimize your entire supply chain and stuff like that? And finally, when you look at risk, fraud and risk is a big space. So whether it is, claims, whether it is, fraudulent claims, that's a big space for a lot of organizations. Fraud that happens in the banking and insurance sector, those are use cases that organizations are really focused on, right? So three levers typically come to mind when you're looking at the application of data and analytics: C, R, and O, customer risk and operations, and organizations are really focused on making that happen.
Okay, thank you so much. So let me move the same question to Dushyant. You are from hospitality industry. You are running hotels. So how you see, you are a CTO, and I also came to know you are into product. So a good combination of product and technology. So how you see how this data-driven approach help to create a blueprint for your organization? What is your opinion?
Hello? Yeah. Is it fine now? Yeah. So how data flows, right? Especially in Indian context, it varies, right? Because the most of the Indians' data is unstructured, right? How we, as you mentioned, right? Data has its own journey. How it started with the name, then mobile number, then address, and more details keep on coming with the to the organization. Now there are two types of major categories: either the PI data, which is personal identifiable, and there's other related data. Now most of the organizations are trying to use both kind of data. For PI data, there is some compliances are there which needs to be fulfilled to make sure the data is secure for all type of customer. Now there is non-PI data, which is one of the most critical aspect for any business to understand that what is the user journey is happening. Either it's coming on the interacting with any of the POS, either the offline, online POS kind of thing, and how you're tracking the data to make sure you provide the unified customer experience. So that's one of the critical aspects which now it is getting very exciting, because now you have more data for the customer, that what customer is doing across social media platform, across all the website or POS, offline, online, and how you can use the data to create a right customer journey, build the right products. Because that's one of the important thing. Most of the startups in India fail because of lack of right data to understand what to build. And that's one of the biggest problem we solve, because we are working on last 10 years and we are majorly building the tech from last 2 years only. So last 8 years, we gather the data, we are around 10 lakhs customer data, and now we understand what customers likes, what customers don't like, what are the services they need, what time they need the service. And that's one of the key aspects to understand that how to use the data which can generate more revenue for business. Because that's one of the critical aspects. Many times, organizations spend money on generating data, storing data, but they don't know how to monetize the data in the right way. We try to store very minimum data, but try to make sure that data is useful for the customer side and helping the business generate more revenue. So when we're building any product, data plays a very important role, and what data you're collecting, how you're collecting the data, how you're utilizing the data to build the right product, and then converting that product to the right revenue. So that's the journey. If you build, then the whole data processing or data processing makes sense.
All right, so thank you so much, Dushyant. I wanted to take the viewpoint from Sukhdev. So you are from most regulated organization. So when it comes to biotechnologies, you completely depend on data and you make your decisions. So can you share your viewpoint on this?
Absolutely. So in our industry, biotech, life science, pharma, data fuels everything. I'll go several levels down to what Dr. Hari and Dushyant and also Kiran has been talking about. So for any data-driven enterprise, the blueprint to me evolves around designing a strategic roadmap that covers how an organization would like to transform your processes, your systems, your culture, and governance to harness the best out of data. If you want, I can repeat, because this is exactly what we practice. And once we did all these things, because they are very crucial for getting your data-driven decisions, or how you drive your operational efficiency, and for us, innovation. Right? So I'll stop at that, and probably I would love to give a lot of examples of how we actually use data and why data is so important, not for data, because everybody has data, but data profiling, how you do the metadata, how you can make use of the data for doing the data correlation, right? So if you have the structured or the unstructured, how to make good use of data for getting the right outcome. For example, let me give an example. We manufacture antibodies, all right? So a lot of different kind of antibodies for cancer markers to, all different kind of things, neurological and all that. Now, the way this entire process works, there's a lot of immunization cycle. It goes from 6 months to 18 months before you see some meaningful product coming out. But then the science has evolved in a very smart way, where you apply different protocols to see where you get the perfect yield or a better yield. How do we do that? Okay, if we were to go in a very generic way, it will take its own time. In a commercial setup or in a commercial organization, you don't have the luxury where your customer is waiting for a product and you are still doing your experimentation, innovations. This is where we actually apply the data correlation or data analysis. And then we say these protocols work better for these kind of cancer markers. Cancer markers also has, several cancer markers, 15-3, 72-4, 19-7, so on and so forth. So there are many such things which are there, and data plays a very critical role if you did the data right. And that's why I said that it is important during your blueprinting how you want to use the data for your business. That is, for me, a lesson learned through all these years. That is the most critical thing. When you're doing the blueprinting, anytime you're doing something, you keep the end state first to design how you want to transform your data.
Well said. Thank you. So it addresses some of the questions how we are getting towards the data-driven organizations. When we talk about data, see, I strongly believe everyone is sitting with data, no doubt. Even today, when we are sitting in this room, there are so many cameras recording. There are cell phones, data is recording. CC cameras is recording data. How fruitfully, how usefully we are using this data for making business decisions and understanding patterns. So these are some of the takeaways from the data. But doing this, we are also equipped with other regulatory challenges, privacy, security. So collecting data is one part, but how you are protecting the data, how you are making sure that the data is used in the right way. Just some time back, Mr. Brijesh has told the data which is collected can be used against you also. So how we are protecting as an organization in the part of building a data-driven blueprint, how you are looking at security as one of the aspect, and how in the industry or organizations are getting ready. Can I ask the same question for all of you, starting from Sukhdev?
Sure. So yes, we are a regulated, heavily regulated industry and an organization that way. So for us, data privacy, data security is utmost. Okay, most of the equipment's data is all validated, which means you have to prove that the data cannot be misused or cannot be broken. Now, given the scenario, the recent law DPP which has come in, it comes with a very good guideline, though it has not been kind of released. But so we have been following what is the mandate of DPP, wherein it says, your technology will take care of your security, your privacy to the extent that you can. And for us, our data is not in the hands of end users. So obviously, the entire control is with us, how we use the data. But within that, for some of the products that we have, what we ensure that we have the mandate from my user is the consent, right? So consent is one of the important thing which has been highlighted as part of the DPP, which is catching traction as far as India is concerned. If you go overseas, GDPR or PII, HIPAA and all that stuff, it is all about data privacy, data security. Okay, but having the data consent is very important, because then the data that you are keeping with you, be it end user data, be it any kind of profiling data or any of the usage data, that to what extent that your end user has given you the consent to use the data.
Yeah, I can ask the same question to Dr.
Yeah, but I think Sukhdev covered off most of it, right? So whether it's DPDP, whether it's HIPAA security, whether it's internal or external in our case, because we support a lot of clients, cyber security and data security is really of the most importance for us from an organization standpoint. In fact, those of you who were here in the morning, one of my colleagues presented our entire approach on cyber security as well, right? So that's a big investment area for us from an organization standpoint. And I really think for any industry, that's the make or break, right? You could build great models, you could have great use cases, but if security is going to be a flaw, you don't stand to exist in the marketplace, right? So that's a given, non-negotiable for us. So whether it's regulatory standards or our internal standards, we are very, very focused from a cybersecurity perspective.
Yeah, thank you. Shant, your point of view.
As we've seen that technology is always evolving from many years, and the change or the speed at which it's changing last 5 years is tremendous. And the same issue is happening with the cybersecurity challenge also, right? Because anytime today, if you scan your system and everything is secured, tomorrow it will be break, right? So that's one of the critical aspects is happening, because now you have to spend, how you're going to spend on cybersecurity, because Sir mentioned that you have to heavily spend to make sure data is secure, because then it's a very continuous process. And every day, one single API or single bug is there, which can leak to most of the data in the system, right? And with the AI model, now the security is getting more complex, because now there are more ways to identify or find a vulnerability and penetrate any of the system, right? So today, being an ethical hacker or non-ethical hacker is easier for anyone, right? You can go find some script, try to penetrate any of the data, and you will see tons of examples on the internet today that we can penetrate any of the system and get out of data. So that's also one of the key challenges happening for all the leaders which are here and which are facing this challenge, that every day how to secure data, because every day anything can break. Either it can be your side, any vendor side, any of the thing you're using internally or externally, or any external tools which you're using, which is securing your data, and then it can be leakage. So there are multiple aspects of this one which needs to be secure, and it's going to be very challenging in upcoming times.
Yeah, I do agree. Classification of data, making sensitive data and non-sensitive data, transactional data, bifurcating and bucketing them separately and using them in an appropriate way is very important for the organizations. And also today, it's not that there is a single pipeline or a single source of data. We get data, structured data from your organizational, whatever the touch points or endpoints, and we are also sitting with a lot of social media data, some unstructured, semi-structured, some missionary data. Like just imagine a small restaurant. I'm talking about a small restaurant of 2,000 square feet. You have equipment which are IoT enabled, so they generate data. You have chillers, freezers, they generate data. You have CC cameras, they are generating data. You have customer touch points, they are generating data. So everywhere today, the production of data is increasing. At that scale, the data is getting stored somewhere, but how organizations are trying to leverage this and how they are using. So in a parallel track to all the technologies, whatever the cutting edge technologies coming, and it's like a waves. You get a blockchain wave and you have a AL, ML wave. Now you have the entire IoT. So all these kind of technologies, cutting edge technologies, again, they rely back on the data you collected and the hygiene data you are having, which will allow you to be at the maybe ahead of your competition, or it may bring you to some levels above than what you are expecting. If you are not having a right data collected or the data is not matured enough to be used by these tools, it's really not useful. So touching on that point, now I just wanted to ask one more question to you. Today we are talking about a lot of AI, ML. We are talking about how IoT is, which is generating information, and the use cases. AI, ML is been widely used, and when it comes to blockchains, you are using this all cutting-edge technologies. But end of the day, for any of these cutting-edge technologies, you need a hygiene data or a well-groomed data structures. So can you share your viewpoints, how you are trying to cope up with this requirement and how you are structuring your data? Can I start with Dakshant?
So, as you rightly mentioned, right, data is the fuel for any of the technology to work, right? Without data, none of the technology can work efficiently. And then the critical aspect comes that what data to collect and how to collect the data. For us, we are in hospitality, we are on 60 plus properties across India, and it's difficult to track what is happening at currently in location. So what we have done, all our properties have the smart locks kind of thing, right? So all locks open via the OTP only. So today we understand that, okay, which door is open, which room is occupied, how many people are staying over there, how much electricity they are consuming. So at a time you integrate new technology that help you to generate data and which can help the business to take the right decision, right? Either it can be revenue-based decision or sales-based decision, or it can be efficiency in the operation kind of decision, right? So what kind of data you are generating and how you can make sure the data has been used properly so that right decision can be taken. Now, with respect to the new things which is coming more in the agentic AI kind of thing, where how the AI agents can be trained based on the localized data or the secure data used by the organization, and then how we can make sure that all the related party have the right access of information to take the right decision. So that's the one key area which we are working on, that how we can train our own data to the local models and use that data to take the right decision internally. Because any organization which has more than 10 years has huge data, and it's impossible for them to process it manually, right? So every time you use that data in a right way, train it and use it efficiently in a secure environment, because that's the critical aspects. And that's why many organizations using that private models is coming place, right? You don't go to public models or LLM where it's open or security is the concern. You use the private model, small model, or from LLM model, we come into SLM model, the small language model, where you train the model on the localized data and use the data for the internal operations only with the secure environment and take the right decision based on the data, right? So every time, either it's a customer data, PI data, or other data which is helping in the sales, or other data which is helping in the operation efficiency. So all kind of data you can track, you can train the models and use them for efficiently. Same, we can use IoT or other kind of technologies to make sure it's automatically generate data without the interaction of the users, and that can help to take the decision. So these are new technology which we are evaluating and using to make sure that we use right data to process and take the right decisions.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Dr. Hari, can you just
I can go.
quote
Yeah,
with some
absolutely.
example because you
Sure.
are-
So I think there's no one size fits all. For example, we service 2,000 clients globally, and when I look at different markets, the way data is really managed in different markets is very, very different, right? When you come to India, there are challenges from a data perspective. When you go to, let's say, North America, data is much more available freely. When you go to Europe, it's far more regulated, right? So each of the markets has a very different perspective in terms of how you really need to manage your data. That's point number one. Point number two, for people who have been in the data analytics business, 10 years back, people were all worried about managing unstructured data. People used to say, there's so much of unstructured data coming in, I don't know how to manage this unstructured data. So if I get slightly technical, there's something called a lakehouse. Today, a lakehouse can manage structured data and unstructured data as well, right? Earlier part of today, I was interacting with a gentleman where he said, I'm not worried about unstructured data anymore. I'm more worried about structured data because something like GenAI is able to address unstructured data, but I'm really struggling with structured data. So I think it's a cycle, and organizations need to balance between structured and unstructured data, and depending on two things. One, the region that you are in, and the industry that you are in, you'll have to really take the right call. Banking, for example, is highly regulated. So the kind of data that comes in and the kind of flexibility that you will have is going to be limited, versus if you look at e-commerce, there's so much of data that's coming and you can really put it back into your data warehouse, right? So each of the industries will have their own standards, each of the regions will have their own standards. You really have to adapt from an organization perspective, right? So whether it's a data warehouse, whether it's a lake house, whether you're using GenAI, not using GenAI for structured, unstructured data, I think it's a choice that you will have to chase depending on the use case that you're going to service.
And how you look at the sentiment analysis of data, because that's one of the key, because the data comes sometime, the sentiment is to be driven.
Right.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, sentiment analysis is a very advanced topic today. And across industry, there are enough solutions to really address sentiment analysis. I'll be happy to, walk you through some of the work that we've done. But sentiment analysis is a big area of topic after COVID, because a lot of organizations suddenly went digital. And the moment they went digital, all this data started becoming available for all of these organizations, right? And they were grappling with the fact that, how am I going to really use this data to the right use? But frankly, I think the industry is moved very, very fast on this space. So whether it is banking, whether it is healthcare, whether it is e-commerce, airlines, they do a pretty good job of analyzing the sentiment data and really taking the right kind of actions on that. That's one of our sweet spots as an organization, so I'll be happy to walk you through our solution on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Some of the organizations have taken this challenge very smoothly and able to do, but still it's a large portion to be addressed. Like today, it become like a mandatory that you should become a omni-channel or a uni-channel business. So people in a hurry, they start their websites, their mobile apps, their social media handles, and even reading the data in a different way. Let me take an example of the hospitality industry. Someone go to Zomato or Swiggy and order something, and it was delivered by a branded restaurant. Because of some experience, that consumer has given his feedback on X or on LinkedIn or somewhere. So there is no interconnect also. There is no interconnect because most of this modern e-commerce or the kind of digital communications which they are trying to build are not still matured. They are limited questions. You can't ask more than that. You need to select from that. And if you are not happy, then customer is going beyond the box and trying to write on some other social media. And once it goes viral, then they are trying to correct it. So still, I see there's a lot of gap in how they're able to bring all this data and trying to make a right sentiment analysis in terms of unstructured data, this social media data.
No, that's fair, and maybe you can add, but I think over time, what data comes in from social media is now integrated back into the mainstream, which was not the case a couple of years back, right? The moment organizations went digital, this was becoming an independent data source. And the moment it's an independent data source, there's only so much that you can do with it. Right? Over the last, I would say, 24 to 36 months, organizations have started integrating this into their main data source. So it's not just another lever, but it's really becoming a main source of content for organizations. They're taking the right kind of actions. My perspective, I think there is a lot of evolution in that space. And hopefully, organizations will make the right calls from social media interactions.
Especially when it comes to banking and finance sector, the amount of consumers and amount of customers, awareness, and getting them onto the same page is not so easy. It's a mammoth job. Okay, now let me come back to Sukhdev. You are into biotechnologies, so mostly your data is more sensitive and more protected. So how you see the usage of cutting edge solutions in terms of your roadmap?
Absolutely, Kiran. So for us, we have use cases all across, whatever we do. One of the use cases I'm going to talk about, we have a medtech device. Okay, this was developed by one of the government agency, one of the IITs, and we are the ones who developed the whole thing. Now, this is a medtech device which is used for capturing the auscultations. Now, think of the digital healthcare. Think about the telemedicine. Think about all the data which is getting generated. Right? Millions and millions of data that is getting generated. So I'll go back to the point that Kiran, he started with good data, bad data. Just imagine like a doctor, a decent doctor, on a day, he at least, he kind of sees, 50 to 80 patients on an average, right? Now, there could be respiratory, cardio, all kind of stuff, okay? Abdomen, so on and so forth. Now, just imagine how much data is coming back to us. So the trick there, the key thing there is the data classification, okay? Capturing the metadata, the data lineage. Now, if I want to use, for example, for my telemedicine, because all this data capture is towards making, a proactive use of the data for someone who is using this medtech device. So, for example, you do an auscultation, you hear a murmur, right? Now, that murmur could arise because of several reasons that's happening inside your body, right? Now, when I capture data from a particular region, even within India, the murmur, a healthy patient from maybe the southern part or far eastern or maybe here and there, they are different. So first you have to capture or maybe tag your good data against which you train that what, auscultation murmur that I'm hearing and what symptoms did that data has. Even your community region, it varies, right? So I would say, and it was not easy for us, it's easy to come and talk here for 5 minutes and then leave the place, but the end game or the end goal, as I started, data is all over. But business should drive what data they want. All right? So when we wanted to crack or give a meaningful output or outcome or result to our business, it was important for us that what you want. Okay? It took a lot of brainstorming before we could decide that how do we filter, how do we classify, how do I say this is the data with which I want to compare whatever, future patient data that I'm going to get. So to summarize the whole thing is the AIs, the MLs, any of that will be successful as long as you have the good data, meaningful data, contextual data there. Because everything is context specific. You cannot generalize everything, right? So sentiments and all of that. So in a huge, let's say, data population, all kind of different symptoms and, things, trends that you see. But then one should have the judgment. I'm looking what with respect to what. So I will kind of stop here. I'm looking at the clock. But yes, data is everywhere. But for an enterprise to really make good use of the data, you really want to have the people and the business sit side by side. It is not the tech guy's problem. It is actually the business strategies or, business who should drive what data you give me so that I can look at, which region increasing sales, decreasing sales, by product, by customer, this, that. Right? It is not the tech guy who is talking to the customer or who is meeting the patient. I think for us, this team here, that is the important thing. And I know, probably, there are very few people left here in the room. But if all of us start thinking that way, I think we did some justice to whatever discussion we are doing here.
So basically, it's more like the organization's thought process should change to right from design-driven to data-driven. And evidently, this has to come from the top management, especially most of the organizations. The friction is created when the organization is not aligned to the data-driven. Because come what may be, we may have a smart analyst sitting there. He has done a lot of things and shown, but it is design-driven. They don't care about the data. And it will be too late for them to understand and come up. And today, as Dr. you told, it's seen evidently in last 2 years, like in retail, we used to call multi-channels or what you call omni-channels. Today, everyone is talking about one language called uni-channel. Be it be your online, be it be your offline, be it be your social media, we are uni-channel. So we are trying to synchronize our masters. We are trying to make our data common data. So there is a good adoption of data. Being India at this diversified, having so many states, different cultures. So it takes time for organizations to go. It's a good go where it started. And moreover, more than anything is, it is driven by leadership and it is adopted by the teams who are working. So at a cultural shift for people to adopt data is very important. Today, I'll quote a practical example. I just wanted to make it light to understand. We have hired a very good analytical background guy. That girl is very smart. I was so impressed. Then I told her, go and work with the finance team. I don't want to see Excels. Just let them use whatever your BI tool, Tableau or Power BI. After 1 week, 10 days, I just called that girl and asked about feedback. So how these guys are. She told, sir, I'm scared if I will start using Excel. So what I mean to say is the way how employees look at data is, okay, give me Excel, I'm comfortable. They are not ready to adopt. So that cultural change is very important. The best way is to uninstall a Microsoft Excel, then people will figure out other ways how to handle the data. So that's it. And are we open for...
Just to add that one, at the hostel, we are around 10 teams, and we started one initiative called Sheet-Free Team. Okay, so we are building the system in such a way that no team should use any Excel sheet. Okay, anyone is using should to be in the process, should be in the system, and no one should be allowed to export anything. Okay, so data will be secure, everything on the system. There should not be any Excel sheet used by any team. So that's the initiative we are taking because we understand that everyone has a habit of using the sheets and then all data is scattered over there.
It's across businesses, it's across industry. People generate data from a BI tool and dump it into Excel and they start working. I can't just imagine how people think. So there is a big challenge how you change the culture of people, how they adopt to this, and how they will be a data-driven organizations. And by this, I just wanted to open for questions. So we have a panel who are ready to answer any of your questions. Anyone have any questions? Yes, please. Can someone give the mic? Can
Hello. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
So yeah, this is Jainam again. I have a few questions. So as it has mentioned, like how information powers innovation. So data lies at the ground, right? So with the data, we can do multiple things. But as I understood, right, right now we are adapting AI so much, but still, there is a requirement X, but we used to get Y, despite of so much of data at our hand. And where on the other side, the fraudsters or scammers are using this data very well. So, there is Act, DPDP Act in India. Earlier, GDPR is also there. So why we are unable to stop them? At the one side, we are able to reject the loans for people using AI data, but they are not able to stop the scammers to, fool us. So where is the gap? And the second question is about the consent. Someone talked about the consent, right? So if I take an example, like minimalist being acquired by HUL, so I may have given my consent to use my data for minimalist, but now it's been acquired by HUL. So this is legitimate. They can use my data. Does I have given the consent? Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone want to take this question? Dr. Hari?
All right. So I'll take your consent question, and probably one of you can take
I'll take the other question.
other one, first one. So consent, this is more of a legal thing. Okay. Now, legal is all about the wordsmithing. If I have given my consent to you, which is non-transferable, then it is non-transferable, right? But if it is transferable, if you are acquired by another third party and it is transferable, then you have already taken my consent to transfer my data, whatever data I have consented for, to the third party. So it is more of a legal thing. So anytime that you are giving a consent, just read between the lines, you are consenting for what? Okay? There are a lot of attributes within that. Okay? As long as you make yourself clear, you should be fine. Because any misuse, then at least you have the lever to go back and ask, or at least say that I had never consented for it. And that's why this thing, the DPP is now kind of swung towards consent. I know this is not a full answer to your question, but just for us to be aware of.
Understood.
Right.
Thank you.
So to just answer your first question, to my mind, forget about all privacy, security, policies, governance, which comes from outside. Just for yourself, when you are collecting information and storing in some storage, you should go back to a whiteboard and just see what information is sensitive, what can be shared to even within the organization, whom what has to be accessed. That has to be clearly defined. As you said, always bad guys doesn't come from a main door. So they come from a source where they extract your entire data and they will use this data more efficiently than you because they have more advanced tools. That is their way of getting their earnings, right? So we should be very careful where we are storing the sensitive information, especially related to customer finance information, the financial, your fintech information. You should be double careful. And moreover, we have to keep on continuously doing the vulnerability accessible test, penetration test, do mocks, and make sure that your data is always secure. If there is no one can guarantee that, okay, we have a secure data. If you see all the hacks, all the kind of stuff happened is only maximum in the Fortune 500 companies. Someone who take the backup in a tape drive and keep it somewhere in a locker is the best safe guy, because no one can hack the data because it's not available. Whereas you buy n number of tools and load your technology with so many cyber security tools, but there is another way of entering. They come through a user login or they enter your domain. So for them it is easy to access, and once they get access, they can take out. Their goal is very simple. If your administrative access is compromised, then your data is compromised. So make sure that that is not given in the wrong hands, or it should not go into a wrong hands. And when coming to the usage of data within the organizations, there is a lack of maturity. The data usage, see, within an organization, either groom some people who can be at that level. Today, there are so many companies who are coming up and trying to help with the data science and this business analytical tools. Take help of them, use them as a SaaS vendors, and try to leverage your data. They will not get data. They will take your data only and try to convert into a right information. So hope I answer your question.
Yeah, you have answered it very right manner. But the thing is, in today's days, as you rightly said, we have to do our own due diligence before to give consent or go ahead with any sort of application or any sort of tool using that. So that's saying that we stick to basics. Generally, in the era of AI, we still stick to basics. As our forefather used to do, अपना data हमें save करके रखना है, kind of these things. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that is for sure. Even you use whatever cyber security tool, they can help you, or something goes wrong, they can tell you from which pocket it went or from which pipeline it happened. But data security still lies in the organization, and it has to be in the organization.
Yep.
No one owns.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for hearing us. We are available. We can connect back on offline. Thank you. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, everyone.
All right.